Hi, good people. It's Amy from Savor, Salvage, Scent, and I hope this finds you well. For those of you who are new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. This mostly focuses on all things fragrance related with an occasional other DIY project or creative project. For those of you returning, thank you so much for keeping this conversation going, and I love learning alongside of you. If you haven't yet, I hope that you will consider clicking the red subscribe button so that we can stay in touch and you'll get notifications about my videos. And if you enjoy this content, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel and my growth a lot. So today I want to talk to you about some of my newer experiences with trying Serge Lutens fragrances. I will put links below for a few other either reviews or videos that I've done on the creations by Serge Lutens and his co-creator Christopher Sheldrake. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is my narrative, but Serge Lutens, when I first started really getting into perfumery, which would have been, let's say, the late 90s, early 2000s, that was, gosh, I would say that many of the fragrance lovers, reviewers that were really into, I would say, more artistic, challenging perfumes were talking about this house. It's considered, I believe, a niche house, although I believe the first fragrance or two were under the name of Shiseido and then purchased, or actually under Shiseido, then came under the line of Serge Lutens, but I believe they were repurchased by Shiseido. So anyways, if you know more than I do, please let me know. All this to say, yeah, in the 90s and aughts, I feel like this niche house got a lot of love. I want to be careful how I say this, but there have been trends, especially in American interest or perfumery, that I frankly think have kind of spoiled some of the things that I love most. This house is very inventive and I would say downright artistic. I feel the fragrances are artworks. And a couple things have happened that I think have somewhat, not taken them out of favor, but they just don't get talked about as much. One, people fell in love with the gourmands to the point where, and I love a gourmand, so don't get me wrong. I almost feel like that's almost all that's of interest now is like ultra clean scents and gourmands. And I feel like the house of Serge Lutens is just more risk-taking and challenging even at times. I'll share with you some that have challenged me, but in a good way. And then the other thing is, you know, in French and perfumery in other parts of the world, it is always, it's for so long been an important facet that perfumes have, whether it be a hint or a large amount of like a body smell, maybe even odor, maybe even things like civet and castoreum and animal funky scents, you know. These were used in compositions to make like a rich, full scent. And something happened, I feel like mostly in the American market, gosh, about 20, 25 years ago, where, and I know some people really love this, so I apologize, it's just not my favorite, is everything started to smell like a dryer sheet and started to smell like ultra clean, to the point where, like, I feel like some of the challenging facets or notes within Serge Lutens perfumery just isn't as much in favor. I don't know if you can hear, my cat has been doing this thing lately where when I make a video, she makes these flirty noises and rolls around by my feet. So if you hear that, that's what's going on. Her name's Paris. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk with you about 10 scents today. A few of these I've talked about more extensively as reviews, and I'll link them below. There is a wonderful eBay person who sells little sample sets of perfumes. My impression, I learned of her, I think about 20 years ago. She calls herself the Pleasure Center, S-C-E-N-T-E-R. And she does these themed explorations kits. It is such a good way to try either themes on, like, let's say a note or a designer or even a type of perfume. And so I have purchased, I did like an orange flower set, I believe, by her. I've done this Serge Lutens set that was 10 different samples. My understanding, she's been long been a collector. I mean, she has things in some of her sample sets that have been out of commission for a very long time. And I've tried some things through her 15, 20 years ago that since are off the market. Like, you cannot find. Anyways, she has sets based on, let's say, if you like ambers, or you like oriental scents, or you like the note of rose, if you like the house of creed. I mean, it goes on, and she has these beautifully curated sets. So I think I purchased one that was like licorice based. What else? I did one that was to do with like comfort and bedtime scents. Anyways, great way to try things. And I did a sample set by Lutens, of Lutens fragrances, and I think her sets run between, like, for 10, between like 25 and 35 or $40 if it's a really high end house. But even in this Lutens set, I tried things I would frankly never afford. So pretty exciting. So I'm going to talk to you about 10 scents. And just give you kind of my quicker impressions. I'm not going to talk every single note. I'm going to talk, some will get more talk than others. Anyways, I'm going to start with 3 that I own. One I bought because of the set, because I fell absolutely in love with it, and a couple probably will come. A few I really, really, really love and am interested in. And then there's 2 or 3 that I would say I find challenging. Yeah, but I would say, like, if you're not familiar with Lutens, this is my narrative, but I do find some of their scents to be challenging, and so I find, while I've had good luck blind buying a few bottles through this set, I learned that were a couple that I wouldn't have loved if I would have bought full bottles, and so I would say test their scents if you can, and that's why these sample sets are just a phenomenal idea and price point. Okay, diving in. Okay, so hi. The first 3 I own that I'm going to talk to you about, and I just adore. I mean, these are scents where, like, so I have probably 250, 300 bottles of perfume in my collection. My cat is just cannot get enough of me. I don't know what the deal is. It's very strange. She's not in heat, but that's kind of how she's acting. We all have our itches we need to scratch, perhaps. Okay. The first Lutens I ever purchased was Datura Noir. His scents, if you buy them from the site, tend to be $150 for 50 mils and $230 for 100 mils. You can still find, I would say, about a third or a half of these scents on fragrance discounter sites. I've had good luck with that. Some of these are kind of either out of commission or have moved into this line that are now heinously expensive. So I've purchased used bottles online for good prices, and then I'll talk to you, sadly, about 1 or 2 that I would love to own that are just either out of commission or so expensive I can't touch them. Okay. So Datura Noir is one of the most affordable of his when you look at discounter sites. I think this is a big bottle. This is 100 ml. I think I paid just 45 or 50 for this, which is, yeah, just an incredible price. I, in my review, I'll link below, called this kind of like a gothic floral, and that is how I feel about it. Again, I'm not going to read all of the notes, but to me, this is a sweet, buttery, heady white floral. If you haven't encountered Datura, it's a somewhat toxic flower. I grow it, actually. It has these huge white blooms, kind of looks like a moonflower. I think they're in the same family, but even kind of more extreme and gothic looking. But the scent at night is captivating. I would say even sometimes with his simplest scents or scents that are more soliflores, they tend to always have, or not always, sometimes have a little edge, and this one does. I don't see this as a note, but I get like a tiny bit of suede or leather, and all of this together just, I don't know, it's not your average floral. It's so beautiful and buttery. Datura Noir by Serge Lutens. So that was the first one in the sample set, but I happen to have a bottle of it. Yeah. And this one, again, you can find pretty inexpensively, even though it's a pretty high cost retail. Okay. Next. I bought this scent from the sample set. So I tried this and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have this. The next one I'm going to talk about is Bois Vanille. You might notice that the newer Serge Lutens bottles have this kind of computerized looking font, modern kind of looking, contemporary, I should say. And then the older bottles have this kind of white label. And so when you're finding either ones that are out of commission, etc., you're going to see this label. So this is Bois Vanille. If I didn't mention, I believe all of his scents are co-created with a nose named Christopher Sheldrake. I believe they kind of create them together, but that's the nose who is credited for the work. Bois Vanille is what I would call not your average vanilla. Again, with the gourmand explosion, and I love vanilla. I'm not going vanilla. I'm not, but there are a ton of vanillas, and some I just find to be really boring. This is crazy good. I can't even believe it. It is like everything I want in a vanilla scent. So there's a lot more notes, but I'm going to read to you. It's crazy how many of the notes stand out for me. So I get vanilla, coconut, licorice, tonka, beeswax, bitter almond. Those are like some of my favorite things all mixed together. This scent, I believe, is still in commission. It's $150 for 50 ml, $230 for 100 ml. That's a little out of my price range. I found this slightly used bottle for, I think I paid 40 or 45 on eBay. Who I'm really mad at, but I'll get back to that later. So yeah, phenomenal. One of the most sophisticated vanilla scents I've ever smelled. This could be like a desert island or a signature scent. It's just, oh, it's so good. It's warm. It's not too much of any of these things. Yeah, it's not too sweet. I actually find that all of his scents could be unisex. I mean, some are sweeter than others. Some are lean, perhaps more masculine or feminine, but they're really cool. I think, yeah, anyways, if you like fragrance, I bet you'd be open to most of them. Okay, so Bois Vanille, phenomenal. Had to buy it. That's how much I loved it. All right. And just before I bought this set, I didn't realize that Arabie was in here, and I had been testing Lutens and fell in love with this. So I'm not talking about Chergui today. That is a fan favorite, and it's freaking gorgeous, woody, beautiful scent. When I read about other scents of his that perhaps leaned more, let's say, Middle Eastern feeling or African feeling, I read about, oh gosh, now I'm going to forget the name of it. The beloved Ambre Sultan. I tried it since. I like it, but I actually don't love it as much as I loved Arabie. I found this to be so unique and almost punk. Like, it is so cool. Super, super interesting. Okay, so let me tell you why. This is sadly now, and I'm so glad I found this bottle. I think I paid $60 for this 50 ml bottle. The reason I was willing to pay that was because this now, some of his, like, I would say edgier scents, or the ones that not all of them leave commission. What happens is they put them in this bell jar line, and they're so expensive. They're like $290 plus for a bottle, and that's just out of my league, frankly. But I found this just a hint used for, I think, around $60 online. So what is Arabie? To me, it smells exactly like, I read for years that it smelled like an Arabic market or a African market, and I thought that would be a stretch, but it really, to me, does. It has everything from amber to dried fruit to resins, myrrh, bay, lots of spices, and I say this with utmost respect, like if you go, most outdoor markets, even the one in Cleveland, if you go to it, you'll get these wonderful scents, but you'll also get a little bit of funk. That could be like the rot of the veg, being sent out that's gone bad, fruit. It could be even animal funk, if animals are being sold. I get a tiny, tiny bit of that. And so like what comes across is it truly smells like a market, and to me, the best ways. I love kind of like rich, full, funky scents, and that's what you get here. I think the bay makes it really interesting, and the dried fruits, it's just gorgeous, Arabie. So love it. And if you think you might like this, I would look into it now because it's gone into those more expensive bottles, but I think you can still occasionally find a used bottle online. So Arabie. All right, now I'm going to talk about ones I do not own. The first few I'm crazy about, and then there's a few toward the end that I find challenging, but I would not discount them. Like, I just find them challenging, and I'll be the first to say that sometimes, and I'm this way with music, art, scent, sometimes the things that I find challenging, I end up loving the most in my life. Yeah, because they're usually intellectual, I find, or layered, so. All right, let me dive into some that I absolutely loved. This first one is a heartache. So the scent that I probably loved the most out of the ones I had not tried is one called Majeste de Rose. So I believe that means majestic rose, or rose majesty. This is so darn expensive now. It is one of those $290 bell jar scents. Darn it. I tried everything. I looked online. I tried to find a used bottle. There's no finding one of these for under like 180, 200. I just cannot touch that right now. So rose fragrances I know can be polarizing for some people. I do love some roses. I in fact did a video on rose fragrances I can link below, but it takes kind of, I would say, the right rose for me. And this to me is the perfect rose. I smelled it and I was like, oh, I have to buy that. And then I saw the price and I was like, oh, maybe I don't. So what is it? It is to me the most photorealistic. I have it on this hand, so I'm going to love this little sample until it's gone. This is the most photorealistic garden rose, and I get the leaves. I get like a kind of bright rose, not skanky, not too much. I get the leaves. I get even a little bit of dew, maybe even a little grass. Like it's just this beautiful, fresh rose. It's perfect. I would say if any of you have tried the ultra inexpensive Tea Rose by the Perfumer's Workshop, which you can find for like $10 a bottle, this to me is like a super sophisticated version of that, but still very much almost a Soliflor, even though you get the dew and the green. To me, it smells like a rose, It's a bit more sophisticated and rounded, and darn it, wicked expensive. So highly doubt I'll ever own it, but pray for me because I would love to. That's the Heartbreaker of this 10 scent set. Yeah. All right. Next, I am going to talk to you. Let me see. Sorry, I'm looking at my little samples here. Next, I will talk to you about, I believe this was one of his first, if not his first scents. Bear with me. I'm going to mispronounce it perhaps. Feminite du Bois. So I believe that means feminine woods. And it's interesting, even though it's called feminine woods, I think he still sells it as a unisex scent, which I appreciate because I actually don't find it to lean feminine or masculine. I think it's genderless, this scent. This is such a beautiful, I have that on this wrist. I have, this is a gorgeous scent. I absolutely love it. I find the composition very much to be a composed scent. There are many elements. I'm going to tell you which stand out the most for me, but I just think it's such a beautiful thing. The top notes are cedar, plum, cinnamon, and peach. Mid notes are clove, ginger, ylang ylang, violet, rose, orange flower. And the base notes, pardon me, are sandalwood, benzoin, musk, and vanilla. I get gentle plum, wood, and spice. That combination, kind of like Rihanna's robe to me, has some of those elements. And what comes through is this suede, beautiful composition. Again, it's got, I can pull out the plum, the wood, and the spice, but it's not, some plum and some spice and some wood scents are very strong, and this is like gentle, but you can still pick up on it. It's really lovely. This is one of them that's still for sale that you can find, and you can still find even on discount sites. So that's one I might purchase eventually. So Feminite du Bois. All right, pardon me. Next. A few of these were like kind of challenging to me at first, and I've since fallen in love with them, wearing them. One is called Nuit de Cellophane. This is still in production at the general price, $150 or $230. To me, I would call this a floral composition. It is, I get osmanthus, jasmine, apricot, and honey. I would call this the classiest, most elegant hairspray scent I've ever smelled. I get like some of those elements that were popular in the 80s, 90s, aughts that were in hairspray, but the osmanthus and the jasmine give this kind of peachy apricot-y kind of vibe. And when fruit, and he does this really well, I feel like, or they do this really well, when fruit almost starts to go bad, it almost gets floral and heady, and that's what I get from this. It's almost skanky, but really, really pretty. So I, again, would call this like the classiest vintage shampoo, and that is Nuit de Cellophane. All right, next is, gosh, yeah, I might have to purchase this eventually. This basically means the religion in French, so is it Religieuse? I don't know, y'all. My friend is trying so hard to teach me, and I might be unteachable. Oh, yeah. The other languages I know are not like French. That's the problem. I found this to be one of the easiest to love scents that I smelled that I hadn't owned. There are just 4 notes, according to the site: jasmine, musk, incense, and civet. So civet, is like an animal byproduct, stink. So I get the jasmine and the incense. It smells to me like the most expensive Middle Eastern incense you could buy that's floral and incensey. It's beautiful. Yeah, what more can I say about it? It's just gorgeous. And even though, again, those things could sound very feminine, I find that it could be worn by anyone. I don't find it to be overly feminine. It's just beautiful. So, Religieuse? I don't know. Religion. The Religion, I believe, in French, by Lutens. Okay, very, 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 very nice. Would love to own it. All right. And now we're heading into 3 that are challenging to me. And I'm going to be very honest about them, just because I think it's important to, not everybody likes everything. And these were surprises to me, and perhaps they'll grow on me. I don't know. The one that there's 2 that I'm actually really, really surprised by based on the notes. One is, I love orange flower scents and mock orange scents, citrus blooms in general. Crazy about them. Love them. For years, when I read about these Lutens scents, I was like, oh, that will probably be my first one and I will love it. And for one reason or another, I would be studying another note or something, and that's not the 3 that I picked up first. But the Fleur d'Angers scent of his was in this, and I was like, oh, I'm sure that's going to be a winner. It's the one I actually like the least. I can't believe it. And maybe it's just because it's just not my maybe kind of orange flower. What I get, I'm going to be honest, is like a fake, really bad, cheap incense, hairspray floral, and not in a good way. The notes that stand out the most to me are like a, to me, kind of fake smelling orange flower, jasmine, and tuberose composition, but it doesn't smell real to me. Like, it doesn't, like, my favorite orange flower scents are the ones that I literally get a whiff of them and I think I'm smelling a bush outside of my house or an orange tree. That's not this. Now, I know people might come for me over this video because I know that this is a favorite of people who love Lutens. I'm kind of excited, actually, because I don't know if I've shared with you all, I love perfume so much and my collection has gotten kind of crazy big, and so I'm actually decluttering and making it smaller. And I'm actually really excited when I encounter scents where I'm like, I don't have to like or own everything. And so this just isn't my favorite, and I know some of you will absolutely love it. And don't get me wrong, if I smelled it on somebody, I certainly wouldn't think it smells bad, but it's just not my favorite within the lineup that I've smelled so far. Two other surprises or challenges to me. One is his Tuberose Criminelle. I know people who are absolutely just beauties and thinkers who love this scent, and some of the smartest people I know love this scent. I swear to God, I'm like, I got it and I was like, oh, I think this is going to be so interesting and brilliant. And it is interesting, but I just, is not for me. But it is the notes. This is one that has become really expensive. It's like $3.75 a bottle now. So I'm kind of, I feel lucky that I don't love it. The notes, there are many other things, but tuberose styrex, which is like a resinous vanilla benzoin scent. Jasmine, clove, nutmeg, hyacinth, orange blossom, musk, vanilla. There's nothing in there I thought I wouldn't like. There's something that gives off a camphorous scent with the tuberose. It just smells like sugar. And here's what's crazy. I really like the note of rubber in scents, and I think it's probably because I grew up in Akron where tires are made and the blip. But there's a rubbery, the sweetness of it just smells so, oh, I can't, it's a lot. Now, people who love it get like a camphorous, minty, kind of resinous tuberose, which sounds amazing to me. So this also might be one of those that's just not great on my skin, or that I would love on somebody else. So totally possible. Tuberose Criminelle. Last but not least, for those of you who have been watching the channel, some of you will know that carnation, if not being my favorite note, it's one of my favorites. And it's not something that's explored much anymore. It's considered very old-fashioned. Almost every time something is carnation dominant, I love it. Like almost any version, I'm like, yeah, I can get behind it. I love carnation. This is called Vitriol Wale. I hope that's how you say carnation. Or dianthus. And it's supposed to be, again, kind of like a soliflor. This is another one that has become very expensive. It's $290, so I'm like, phew. This is one, it might grow on me. I can't smell it much. One of the things I love about dianthus, pinks, carnations in real life when they're actually in a garden is they tend to be very, I think, strong. Clovey, cinnamony, spicy, floral, intoxicating to me. This is very light. It definitely smells like, I would say, like a dianthus that is barely opened. It's bright and green and kind of realistic in that way, but it's so gentle, you guys. I can hardly smell it. To me, this would be a great thing. I don't know why. I think it would be especially interesting on a man. But I think it would be great to kind of drown yourself in on a summer day. But for $300 a bottle, I'm like, there are plenty of other scents I can do that with. So it's just gentle. But again, I don't hate any of these three that are more challenging. They're either just not for me. Maybe they don't work on my skin. And 3 out of 10 is a, you know, as far as just I shouldn't say dislikes, not my favorites, is a pretty great rating for a house. It's about as good as it gets actually with me. So cannot say enough about just how interesting, what artworks these are, how interesting the creators are. Again, if you're interested, look into the Pleasure Center and eBay. She creates such interesting curations from her collection. And I hope more people will look into Serge Lutens who haven't. And yeah, I think especially if you're creative, it's just, they're so interesting. They're, to me, true artworks. So let me know, do any of you collect Serge Lutens? Do you have any favorites? There are a few that I have not, gosh, there are a lot that I have not tried that sound interesting to me, and again, kind of challenging. One is a milk-based, or a scent that's supposed to smell like milk. One is supposed to smell like baked bread. Yeah, and there are others who have like kind of like challenging notes. So all of it's interesting to me. I would love to hear from you about Serge Lutens. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Cheers. Bye.